Did you hear the news, Robin? We weren't fired, Robin. We were actually, I'm gonna be retiring. Okay, so don't believe the headlines or anything. Okay, the money isn't running out at SiriusXM. I'm just done being here. It's just too much for me. Boo! So funny how in the past couple of weeks we've had so many old hackish institutions just simply thrown on the funeral pyre of 2025. When you decide to make all of your content about bashing Trump, and at this point in time, it is, well, as one part hack and the other part apathetic, okay? Because there was a point in time where, this was trendy and cutting edge. Cast your minds back to 2015, 2016, and everything leading up to the big shutdown in 2020. Yeah, and it was all anti-Trump all the time. And then, of course, you had those couple of years, well, just the Biden years, obviously, where free speech was very much being tamped down for as much as they want to whine and complain about what's happening right now. Oh, Trump's attacking free speech. I've seen something about a bunch of writers coming together and saying, it's just an unprecedented attack on free speech. Where were you 5 years ago, you bunch of hacks? But no, just because U.S. AIDS is no longer going to be subsidizing your failures because nobody is listening to your slop anymore. People have wisened up over the past decade. And it really seems like, especially with the cancellation of The Late Show and Stephen Colbert spurging out in perpetuity, The View going on hiatus, I'm sure they're going to return. And now you have the Howard Stern Show, which, yes, every time we've talked about this program over the past, I've talked about it for the past 5 years, and even before that, it has been a wall-to-wall Orange Man bad coverage. And for a guy who cut his teeth being so anti-establishment, it's been quite sad to see what has become of the aged WNBA superstar. Like I've said before, time and time again, I'm an old school Opie and Anthony fan. I thought that they were, specifically Anthony, putting on a much better show on a much more consistent basis. Stern was getting all of the guests, of course, and he is in fact a superior interviewer. I will go ahead and give him that. But when it came to, knocking it around with the boys, you would always look forward to hear what, Gilbert Gottfried or Billy West would have to say, and even some of the later Artie Lang stuff was quite funny, but Howard himself, he was a great scout for talent. Let's go ahead and say that. It's about the nicest thing we can say for him. And when he made that jump to SiriusXM in 2006, Sirius Radio at the time, XM was beating the brakes off of Sirius until Howie turned up, and then the fate of satellite radio forever changed, and when the big merger happened, Howie was the number one show for the number one side of that merger. He took over, got an entire level at the new Sirius building, and the rest is history. But now, the king of all media, he's 71 years old. Okay, he's also had a few years in the bag at this point where I think he's had more holidays than he's actually had working days. And even if we get proper ratings numbers, I can imagine, it's a point of diminishing returns. So I'm sure we'll get more clarification in the days to come, but the Howard Stern Show to be canceled, I wouldn't necessarily say that's entirely true, in so much as it's you can continue to do your show, it's just not going to be for $100 million because there's not really that much money kicking around SiriusXM anymore. Because, satellite radio back in the mid to early 2000s, that was some cutting edge stuff. That was a big feature that you would get in brand new vehicles. That would, it would kind of determine, depending on, what kind of a listener you were, if you were a Stern guy or you were an O&A fan, if you would get a Ford or any one of their affiliated brands, then you could get Sirius in your vehicle. Or if you liked your GMCs, your General Motors products, you would go ahead and you would get XM with your purchase. It was a big thing. But after a while, started to have a much more fragmented listening landscape. Podcasts started to pop up everywhere. And additional big radio stars, they very much started to go by the wayside. Like the traditional AM and FM talk radio, it had already been out by the time that satellite came around. And now, we're probably about 10 years removed from SiriusXM being real big players in the market. So all of this makes sense, but saying Howard Stern got canceled is so much more fun. But anyways, Iconic Howard Stern show on SiriusXM is said to be canceled after a stunning 20-year run, sources exclusively told the U.S. Sun. Stern, 71, who has had a megabucks contract for decades at the subscription satellite radio provider, will likely cut some sort of a deal with Sirius to keep his catalog upon his exit, sources said. And to be completely honest, is one of the most lucrative catalogs you can likely ever get a hold of. So yeah, I'd imagine Stern's probably, he can probably do like a couple of specials. Maybe he could do a couple of shows a year. But outside of that, if he sets up his catalog anywhere, he puts it on Spotify, he has some streaming deal somewhere on some platform, that's going to be huge. Because for as much as people want to say, oh, is The Naked Gun and Happy Gilmore 2 reviving comedy, all you need to do is just go back and listen to some of those old O&A shows or old Stern shows. And yeah, you'd realize comedy didn't really go anywhere. It's just nobody's making any new stuff. So yeah, it's going to be quite lucrative. Okay, so that's kind of a big deal in and of itself. But Stern's contract is up in the fall, and while Sirius is planning to make him an offer, they don't intend for him to take it. One insider said of the impending end to the Shock Jock's latest 5-year contract. Yeah, because I thought it was widely agreed upon that this last contract extension was very likely to be Stern's last one, because even at the time when he signed that 5-year extension, it was already being floated out there that he was looking to retire anyways. So this happened, what was it, right after Rogan's deal with Spotify, and it's funny how all of those contracts look in the aftermath. But yes, the insider added, Sirius and Stern, we'll finish this up, are never going to meet on the money, and he's going to want. It's no longer worth the investment. Yeah, exactly. Insider added that fans may expect Sirius to strike a deal for his library, but as far as him coming back and doing a show, there's no way they can keep paying his salary. Well, yeah, exactly. When was the last time anybody thought about satellite radio, if we're going to be brutally honest? After you saw what happened with Stephen Colbert, it's like they just can't afford to keep him going. Another source said Stern's political leanings are also not working in his favor. Yeah, exactly. He's been it says right there, Stern has been an outspoken critic of Trump. Yeah, we know that. He's been an outspoken critic of anybody who just doesn't adhere to his crazy take on the world. Been openly adversarial with his old audience that if you're a Trump supporter, don't turn in anymore. Just don't listen to my show. And well, it appears they're still listening to him. If Sirius isn't going to give Stern a good offer, I don't think it would have anything to do with his ratings. It's more likely everything to do with the political climate. Yeah, exactly. Because, yeah, when we looked at Colbert's ratings for The Late Show, they're fine-ish. They're still down precipitously from where they were when he assumed the role, but are they good enough to stay on the air? Yeah. Could they have hired a new host if they just simply wanted to get rid of the political rhetoric of Colbert? Of course they could have. But just like the Stern Show, it's kind of a dying medium. And for the luxury, Colbert was making, $20 or $40 million a year, and with Stern making $100 million a year, that's money that could go around if this was the mid to late 2000s. With podcast hosts literally everywhere, with those same type of exclusive interviews that Stern used to get with A-list celebrities now just happening, and nobody really cares because A-list celebrities are fucking boring. He's not worth it. Even if he was completely and totally crushing it on SiriusXM, it's not drawing the subscriptions like it used to. Stern famously interviewed presidential hopeful Vice President Kamala Harris in the run-up to the 2024 election. Yeah, him, Shannon Sharp, and then there was one that went live. God, what was that, like a month or two ago? And it was so cringe, it's like, oh, okay, I understand why that didn't go live during the 2024 cycle. Harris's decision to appear on The Stern Show was slammed by many Republicans who accused her of avoiding a number of mainstream media appearances. Yeah, because the ones that she did make had to get heavily edited, that ended up resulting in a lawsuit where, yeah, we can come full circle on this. SiriusXM and Stern did not respond to the U.S. Sun's request for comment. Yeah, he's probably on summer vacation. I wouldn't doubt that. But yes, Stern rose to fame in the 1980s when he launched The Stern Show. Yeah, did a 20-year run at, the old K-Rock, WXRK, I guess that's what it's called right now, but yeah. Starting off first at WNBC, W4 in Detroit, and, oh god, where else were other, DC 101. But yeah, man, I wasn't a consistent listener of The Stern Show, but like Private Parts is a hilarious movie. It's not at all historically accurate, but it's, it's a merciful final chapter, if this is in fact the end of the show. Outside of his long-standing lucrative radio career, Stern created, a blockbuster movie, Private Parts, which was a wild autobiography of his rise to fame. And he also has a thriving pet adoption business with his second wife. And now if he's going to have all of this time in retirement, well, now he can look after his daughter's burgeoning acting career, because I remember talking about that and all the cringy shit she was doing out there. But alas, it is in fact the end of another era. I do believe I'm at least a little bit surprised by this news. Knowing how stingy he has been with his staff, I'd imagine they're probably also equally shocked by this news. But he has a knack for assembling incredibly talented people around him. So it won't be difficult for them to find work. But yeah, he's been on the air longer than I've been alive, and well, he's been relevant for about half that time. So sayonara, Howie. Best of luck being held up in the Hamptons. At least you won't have to take the Howie copter to and fro anymore for about 3 times a week. Boo! So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.